York's classic rock, Q1043.
Well, this is the major issue concerning parents at the moment. What about in-classroom school starting in the fall? And joining me this morning, Keri Rodrigues. She is the president of the National Parents Union, which, by the way, I didn't even know existed till I was watching CNN one day. And I said, why did I not know about this? So first off, Keri, what is the Parents National Union and what do you do?
So we're actually a new organization. We just started in January 2020. We brought together 200 parent advocacy groups from all 50 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. And we had kind of been working together organically because, I'm the founder of Massachusetts Parents United. We're the largest parent advocacy group here in Massachusetts. But I know my friends in New Hampshire, I know them in California, I know them in Tennessee, and they'd always call me for help. I'd call them for help. So we decided to formalize this because, frankly, when we take a look at education policy, housing policy, safety policy, politics, unfortunately, you have a lot of special interest groups that are representing themselves, but nobody's really showing up for kids and families in a very strong way. So we decided to make it official. We brought everybody down to New Orleans. We had a beautiful convening. We marched in the streets. We took over Bourbon Street. We had Ilyasa Shabazz, the daughter of Malcolm X, as our keynote speaker, talking to us about social justice and activism. And we decided to do this so that we would actually have a voice in the conversation. And it's a beautiful movement of, frankly, mamas of color, mostly across the country, who are standing up and fighting for our kids. And it's a beautiful thing.
So what is going to happen in the fall? What do you want to happen in the fall?
Well, we've been talking with, these organizations across the country and, frankly, convening our own work groups about what we'd like to see. Because, frankly, not a lot of folks are inviting us to the table, but we don't need an invitation. We're coming anyway. We put together a family bill of rights to talk about what we thought was important. And number one with a bullet is health and safety. We've done national polling. We've polled over 5,000 families across the country that have told us that, frankly, the only people they trust to make these decisions, it's not superintendents, it's not principals, it's not even governors, it's not Donald Trump, it's public health officials. So we're very concerned about the ability of schools that, frankly, are not infectious disease specialists when they make promises about the fact that they can keep our kids safe, that they know what to do with disinfectants. Frankly, we've been in schools before. Like, we went to public schools. Many of us consider ourselves survivors of our public education experience. There are holes in the roofs. There are rats running in the hallways. You don't have functioning bathrooms for a lot of our kids. There's not toilet paper to use. And now you expect parents to believe you when you say that you're going to keep our kids safe from a deadly virus, a virus that we don't know. Every single day there's new information about. Many of us live with our parents, live with people who are very vulnerable to COVID-19, and we're not willing to really take that risk. So what we'd like to see, instead of having these ridiculous conversations about what's the best way to wrap our kids in plastic and how are we going to keep 7 and 8 year olds from being on top of each other, double down and really get good at remote learning. Let us figure out for ourselves, like, how we're going to manage this. Let's get some, support from the federal government so our families can remain intact and we can feed our kids and keep our homes. Let's get smart about this, because right now it's just an absolutely ridiculous conversation we're having in this country.
You say you want health officials to make the decision. What health officials? Health officials on a federal level, the CDC, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, or health officials in local communities? And who would those health officials be? I mean, that's part of the problem, is that there's no federal umbrella, and there is, it's sort of being made, the decisions piecemeal. And in New Jersey, for example, we just learned this week from Governor Murphy that if parents are uncomfortable with sending their kids back in classroom, they have the okay to have their kids learn remotely, which also brings up the issue. Well, then what about the parents working? What happens with who's watching the kids? The whole thing is just such a mess.
It is. And the problem is that we don't have the leadership we need in this country. And I'm not trying to make this a political thing, but the fact of the matter is, like, we need to have leadership on the federal level and guidance from them that will instill confidence in families. Right now, it's just every family for themselves. And I'll tell you what's happening, because there is such a disaster of leadership happening right now. Families are making decisions on the micro level about what's going to happen. I'll tell you, I have 5 little boys between the ages of 7 and 13. So this, I know this firsthand. I am struggling with it myself. And what we've decided to do is create our own little homeschool pod, a little micro pod. So we're going to have 6 kids, one a lower income family, a Hispanic family, a white family, all coming together, kind of intersectional. We hired a special needs paraprofessional because there will be 4 IEPs. We've decided on 1 house that is going to house the school. We've all invested in desks, but just so we can have one person who is facilitating homeschool learning. So some of us can work, some of us work outside the home, some of us work in, but we've decided that this is our bubble. It's quite clear that we're not getting the leadership, the guidance, the information that we need from all of these officials, whether it's elected leaders, whether it's, our government policymakers. They don't know what to do. But as parents, it's our job to really step into that and say, listen, if you don't have it, I have to have it for my kids. I got to figure out some structure here and some balance. So we're taking it on ourselves. And you're seeing this in New Jersey, in New York, in Connecticut, in California, in Tennessee, in Florida. We are helping parents across the country try to figure this out, because parents are on, we're all on our own. We're going to have to make decisions for our own families on that level, because we cannot trust a lot of these folks to be giving us the right information. A lot of it's just based on politics, and we're in an election year right now. We're seeing some folks feeling the urgency to reopen the economy immediately because they're afraid of political ramifications, but they're not listening to public health officials. So we as families, we got to protect our kids, and that's what you're going to see happening here.
I'm speaking with Keri Rodrigues. She is the president of the National Parents Union. Keri, if people have questions and they want some guidance, do you offer that, and how would they get in touch with you?
Of course. So we have the nationalparentsunion.org. You can visit us there. We have our Facebook page. We're on Instagram. We're on every social media you can imagine. We're on YouTube, providing conversation, tips, information, connection with other parents as well, which I think is really critical in this moment. Our organization reaches about 11 million families across the country every single week. And we do that because we are mamas, we are dads, we're abuelitas, we're aunts and uncles. We're folks that are coming together to admit that this is a scary moment and we need each other. We need to figure out, if one family in Arkansas has figured out something that works, I'm going to steal it. I'm going to use it in Massachusetts. So you're going to find those communities of other families who want to help, provide support. We talk with experts. We talk with the fanciest folks in the country to try to bring them in so parents can ask them questions directly without a filter. But you're also going to find, other families that are going through the same thing, because we all need each other to get through this moment. And everyone is struggling. No one is doing this perfectly. And that's the most important thing I want to say to families, is that if you're feeling isolated and alone right now, and you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and you can't figure it out, and it's so hard to make these decisions, please know that families across the country are also struggling, and you don't have to go through this alone. The most important thing we have to do in this moment is get through with our families intact. We can make up for learning, we can make up for a lot, but if we ruin the fabric of our families, that has long-term implications that are really hard to recover from.
I'm wondering, what are you hearing from the kids? Are they scared? How are they coping with all of this? I mean, you have hands-on experience right there.
Yeah, I think it varies from kid to kid. Kids need structure. They need to know what to anticipate. And that's why, even here, again, I'll bring it back to my own situation. The schools in Massachusetts have not even told us what we're doing yet. It's the end of July. You know, my kids right now are used to preparing for the next school year coming up. Like they do their summer thing, they know what to do for school. So that's why we've kind of had to step in and say, we're not going to wait until mid-August to get the final word. We're going to step in and provide the structure. And it makes them feel a little better knowing what to anticipate. Like, mommy's got me, you know, daddy's ready, you know, this is when I'm going to see them. This is what I do with my day. There are a lot of kids who are struggling with the social isolation piece, and we hear that all the time. It's so difficult. And you know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, we are having to make tremendous sacrifices, but there are ways to get around it. We're playing a lot of Fortnite, we're playing a lot of Roblox, we're playing a lot of Minecraft. I know mamas out there, if I hear one more story about, oh my God, mom, let me tell you about what happened to me in Minecraft, I'm going to lose my mind. But we are also providing parents with, you know, the focus that, you know, sometimes you got to take that 5 minutes to make Minecraft important to you in that conversation, because it is so important to them, and that's their social connection. So,
Do you know, I just saw a story today that kids' use of mobile screen devices has jumped during the pandemic 500%. I mean, we were bad off before the pandemic. This is like off the charts.
well, I got to tell you this. I used to be one of those mamas about screen time, like, get off the screen, you've got to be outside. And I'm still very pro go outside. We have a little yard. Again, 5 little boys, sometimes they're fighting to the death. Everything is a sword. That life is real. There is more screen time happening in my house. And that's because while I'm reading about the uptick that we're seeing in screen time, I'm also hearing about how these games, things like Roblox and Minecraft and Fortnite, and they're providing social connection. There are valuable skills that they are learning about supporting one another, working in teams, meeting new friends. I mean, you've got to monitor it. You've got to be really careful, but you also got to work in the context you got. And if this is the way we can keep kids safe, but socially connected, so they feel happy, excited, they're achieving things, they're learning, you know, grit and some teamwork, we got to work with what we got. And so
Okay.
I've become more pro screen as we've come along here.
That's really interesting. Now, the one piece no one is talking about, and I have no idea what's going to happen here, the teachers. The teachers are not feeling safe. I mean, I could just imagine what they're feeling when you have multiple classes, for example, and how much you could possibly be exposed to if there's even one kid that's testing positive. What happens in the event? And are you hearing if there's going to be a national teacher strike or call out?
Again, I think we're having ridiculous conversations, and we've wasted far too much time talking about hybrid models. How do we wrap people in plastic? How do we disinfect every night? None of that stuff is going to happen, because the minute, and we're already seeing it right now, the minute a kid comes in with a COVID-19 positive test, you're going to have to shut down. You're going to have to quarantine for 2 weeks. It's disruptive. What we should be doing now is concentrating on making remote learning worth doing. And that's where we want to see the focus. And frankly, you know, I feel for teachers. I get it. I'm very concerned about teachers, you know, and keeping them safe, keeping them healthy, but I also need them to step up to the plate, because at the same time, if we're going to do this remote learning, you gotta double down. I know it's outside of your wheelhouse and not what you're used to doing, but now is the time to prepare, to learn how to do remote learning, to figure it out, and change the skills, because we're the adults in the situation. So while I have compassion, I also need to see some action from teachers and educators across the country saying, you know what, we're gonna stay home, but we're gonna do this right because our kids deserve it. And we're not gonna lose a generation of kids because we've been dealt an unprecedented challenge. We're gonna step up because these kids are beautiful, they're bright, and they're worth it.
Thank you so much, Keri Rodrigues.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.